Sometimes parents have unresolved trauma or feelings around their unresolved trauma that they ultimately end up passing on to their children. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. I have been counseling men and women who have been victims and or perpetrators of abuse for many years now. And I think it was last week, I did a post on parents who force their children to pay them rent when children get their first job or when they become of age. And this post generated a lot of conversation. And I don't mind people having a different opinion of me. I really don't. But, what was interesting is some of the conversation around it was, well, I had to do it, so they need to do it. I was on my own at a very early age, and so they need to learn the financial responsibility as well. And I get that we all have different experiences and things like that, but what is interesting to me was that there seemed to be a lot of emotions, mainly negative emotions, around the fact that I had to do it, so you damn right they're going to have to do it. And we ain't giving no free rides around here and blah, 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 blah. And there seemed to be anger at me, mostly, for the thought of suggesting that, you just let your children be children and not have to worry about the stress of grown-up things, and if you've been living, the past 18 years without them paying rent, why all of a sudden the sudden shift in the demand that they have to pay bills or pay rent to you? The other thing was, the other thing that came out on that post was that, I'm currently in an abusive relationship and we would be facing homelessness. So that also, that sort of passes the torch to your children to pick up the slack for your abusive relationship. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I just have to go on based off of what it's saying. So, you're choosing to be in a relationship and you know this. And I did a separate post on how parents expect their children to pay them rent, namely a lot of mothers, when they're in crappy relationships with partners. So those are two things, like people that are choosing to be in relationships with partners who they say are traumatizing them, but they're punishing their children for their poor choices and people. And I'm fully aware of the dynamics of domestic violence and things like that. I've worked in it for years. But that's not your children's responsibility to pick up the slack where your partner falls flat. But, again, is that there was, people couldn't fathom the fact that, my children shouldn't have to pick up the slack for me, because I'm making these choices to be in relationships with people. I'm angry about the trauma that I've experienced, so I'm going to give it to my kids because they deserve to feel that pain too. And there's my heart breaks for the children that are going through this, but I put this post out there not to be condescending, not to be abrasive, but to get people to stop and think for a second. There's other ways to teach children financial responsibilities. And honestly, my take on it is, that should be something that is happening way before they hit the age of 18, such as budgeting, them learning how to manage money and things like that. But I certainly don't want my children to experience, stress before a certain age. So I'm putting that out there to, have people stop and maybe think okay, maybe there is some stuff there that maybe I need to work through that I'm unfairly putting off on somebody else, my child who I say I love. I'm unfairly putting a burden on someone else for the pain that I haven't, one, taken responsibility for, two, dealt with in a way that's much more appropriate and not a punitive to somebody else. The fact is, we all have, most of us have trauma, right? But it's your responsibility to deal with your trauma. Your trauma does not then make it okay for you to abuse someone else or to mistreat or put off your unresolved emotions on them. It's your responsibility to deal with your stuff as an adult. And I realize we're all humans. We all make mistakes. And I realize I'm probably going to get a lot of pushback for this post. But just think for a second, like, you know, are you hurting people in your life unnecessarily for work that you maybe need to do? Thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, share, and follow if this has been helpful.